Now the time, it's getting warmer everywhere. It's election time. Did you elect your leader? Welcome once again to News Analysis. News Analysis, a weekly magazine on current affairs. To begin with the main points in a nutshell. Washington in fierce debate on arming Libyan rebels. Retreat for rebels, Libyan Foreign Minister quits. C.I.A. agents in Libya aid airstrikes and meet rebels. Workers give glimpse of Japan's nuclear crisis. Gaddafi army not at breaking point. India census population goes up to 1.21 billion. And now the news in detail. Washington in fierce debate on arming Libyan rebels. The Obama administration is engaged in a fierce debate over whether to supply weapons to the rebels in Libya. Senior officials said on Tuesday, with some fearful that providing arms would deepen American involvement in civil war and that some fighters may have links to Al-Qaeda. The debate has drawn in White House, the State Department and the Pentagon, this official said, and has prompted an urgent call for intelligence about a ragtag band of rebels who are waging a town-by-town battle against Colonel Muhammad al-Gaddafi from a base in eastern Libya long suspended of supplying terrorist recruits. Al-Qaeda in that part of the country is obviously an issue, a senior official said.
There is a danger of a stalemate that over time could be bloody.
On a day when Libyan forces counterattack fears about the rebels surfaced publicly on Capitol Hill on Tuesday, when the military commander of the NATO, Admiral General Stavridis, told a Senate hearing that there were flickers in the intelligence reports about the presence of Qaeda and Hezbollah members among the anti-Gaddafi forces. No full picture of the opposition has emerged, Admiral Stavridis said. While eastern Libya was a center of Islamist protest in the late 1990s, it's unclear how many groups retain ties to Al-Qaeda. The French government, which has led the international charge against Colonel Gaddafi, has placed mounting pressure on the United States to provide greater assistance to the rebels. The question of how best to support the opposition dominated an international conference about Libya on Tuesday in London. While the Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton said administration had not yet decided whether to actually transfer arms, she reiterated that the United States had a right to do so, despite an arms embargo on Libya because of the United Nations Security Council's broad resolution authorizing military action to protect civilians. In a reflection of the seriousness of the administration's debate, Mr. Obama said Tuesday that he was not keeping his options open on arming the rebels. "I'm not ruling it out, but I am not also ruling it in," Mr. Obama told NBC News. "We are still making an assessment partly about what Gaddafi forces are going to do or doing. Keep in mind, we have been at this now for 9 days." Retreat for rebels, Libyan Foreign Minister quits. Libya's foreign minister defected to Britain on Wednesday, dealing a blow to Colonel Muhammad al-Gaddafi's government, even as his forces pushed rebels into a panicked retreat and seized valuable towns they ceded just days ago under Allied airstrikes. The government at once appeared to return control of eastern Libya's most important oil regions to Colonel Gaddafi's forces, giving the isolated government, at least for the day, the cost of most valuable economic prizes. The route also put it out sharp relief to the rebels' absence of discipline and tactical sense. confronting the United States with a conundrum: how to persuade Colonel Gaddafi to step down while supporting a rebel force that has been unable to hold on to military gains. But the defection of Musa Kausa, the foreign minister, showed that at least one long-time confidant seemed to be calculating that Colonel Gaddafi could not last. The news Mr. Kausa's defection sent shockwaves through Tripoli on Wednesday night after it was announced by the British government. Mr. Kausa has been a pillar of his government since the early days of the revolution and previously led the fearsome intelligence unit. Although American officials suspected him of responsibility for the bombing of Pan Am 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland, Mr. Kausa also played a major role in turning over nuclear equipment and designs to the United States and in negotiating Libya back into the good graces of Western governments. Presumably, he is now in a position to talk about the structure of Mr. Gaddafi's remaining forces and loyalists. What is unclear is whether his defection will lead to others. We think he could be beginning of a stream of Libyans who think sticking with Gaddafi is a losing game, one senior American official said, but we don't know. Having abandoned Bin Jawad and the oil port of Ras Lanuf on Tuesday, the rebels fled helter-skelter before government shelling for another oil town, Brega, and stopped for the night at the strategic city of Ajdabiya. As the rebels retreated in disarray, a senior rebel official, Colonel Ahmad Omar Bani, pleaded for more weapons. He conceded that the rebel fighters had dissolved like snow in the sand, but framed the retreat as a tactical withdrawal. CIA agents in Libya aid airstrikes and meet rebels. The Central Intelligence Agency has inserted clandestine operatives into Libya to gather intelligence for military airstrikes and to contact and vet the beleaguered rebels battling Colonel Muhammad al-Gaddafi's forces, according to American officials. While President Obama has insisted that no American military ground troops participate in the Libyan campaign, small groups of CIA operatives have been working in Libya for several weeks as part of a shadow force of Westerners that the Obama administration hopes can bleed Colonel Gaddafi's military, the official said. In addition to CIA presence composed of an unknown number of Americans who had worked as spy agencies stationed in Tripoli and others who arrived more recently, current and former British officials said that dozens of British special forces and M16 intelligence officers are working inside Libya. The British operatives have been directing airstrikes from British jets and gathering intelligence about the whereabouts of Libyan officers, government officials, tank columns, artillery pieces, and missile installations, the officials said. American officials hope that the similar information gathered by American intelligence officers, including the location of Colonel Gaddafi, munitions depots and clusters of government troops inside towns, might help weaken Libya's military enough to encourage defections within its ranks. In addition to the American spies are meeting with rebels to try to fill in gaps in understanding who their leaders are and the allegiance of the groups opposed to Colonel Gaddafi, said United States government officials speaking on the condition of anonymity because of the classified nature of the activities. American officials cautioned though that the Western operatives were not directing the actions of rebel forces. A C.I.A. spokesman declined to comment.
But broadening our military mission to include regime change would be a mistake.
Workers gave glimpse of Japan's nuclear crisis. With the power out, trucks were parked in a circle with their lights on, creating a shadowy stage. A manager from the Tokyo Electric Power Company explained how Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant had been slammed by a mammoth tsunami and rocked by hydrogen explosions and had become highly radioactive. Some workers wept. That was the scene at J Village, 12 miles south of the plant, on the night of March 15th. Hundreds of firefighters, self-defense forces, and workers from Tokyo Electric Power convened at the sports training center, arguing long and loudly about how best to restore cooling systems and prevent nuclear fuel from overheating. Complicating matters, a lack of phone service meant that they had little input from upper management.